Hello, everyone. Amanda Roley here with the Tea with Amanda Roley. We are starting here on the KREM 2 Plus stream. We're actually going to do sips with Amanda. I've got my tea piping hot, ready to go. We've got some nice orange cinnamon spice on this fall day. And I'm calling this the Sips with Amanda Roley, sips of tea, because we're just going to take a quick look at some of my favorite moments on the Tea with Amanda Roley. Right now, you can watch all of my interviews with all 4 Coeur d'Alene mayoral candidates. I met with all of them, and they spilled the tea on why you should vote for them. So before we dive into that, I do want to give some good information for our Kootenai County voters. Here's some things that you need to know as we are getting closer and closer to Election Day. Let's sip on that, right? Okay, and this is our first time in the streaming room, so this is exciting. We're going to be trying out some new bells and whistles. All right, so before we dive in, we're going to check out some of those, before we talk through those favorite moments, we're going to make sure that your voter game plan is ready. So here's what Kootenai County voters should know right now. Early voting. Here's what you need to know. It's already underway here in Kootenai County, and it kicked off October 20th, and it runs through Friday, October 31st. So that's the end of this week, right? So you only have a short amount of time. Now, I do want to queue up some graphics for you to look at and some key dates. All right, so you can vote early in person at Kootenai County Elections Office. That's on 3rd Street in Coeur d'Alene from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. It's basically the same as voting on Election Day. You just fill out your ballot right there at the office instead of mailing it in. Now, if your schedule is packed or you want to skip the lines on November 4th, which I have seen, the Elections Office right there on 3rd Street, it does get pretty, the line gets pretty long. So you may want to try out early voting. Early voting, it's your best bet if that's something you want to try to work around with your schedule. And if something's off with your registration, that's where early voting can help. The staff there can help fix it before it's too late. Now, speaking of deadlines, let's talk about what's coming up this week, what you really don't want to miss. Look at these deadlines. Burn them into your memory, put them in your phone. The clock is ticking for anyone who still needs to register, request an absentee ballot, or update their info. So the deadline to register for voting or request an absentee ballot, that was on Friday, October 24th at 5 p.m. We've passed that deadline. We've passed it. So here's what you can expect going forward. We've passed it, but you can still register on Election Day at your polling place. You'll just need to bring your photo ID and proof of where you live, like a utility bill or pay stub. Now, polls will be open 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Election Day, November 4th. And remember, all absentee ballots must be back to the elections office by 8 p.m. that night. 8 o'clock, that is your cutoff. You need to make sure your vote counts. So mark those dates on your calendar. And now let's get to the fun part. Let's sip on some tea. Let's get a little taste of what your mayoral candidates are saying. All right. Oh, I love a good hot tea. All right. I sat down for tea with all 4 Coeur d'Alene mayoral candidates. And let's take a look at some of my favorite moments. We're first going to start out with, the 4 candidates. You have John Pulsipher, Dan Gookin, Woody McEvers, and Debbie Loffman. John Pulsipher, we'll kick it off with him. He is a dentist in Coeur d'Alene and a local business owner. Dan Gookin is a longtime city council member. I believe he's been on council for 4 terms, 4 terms roughly. And current interim mayor, Woody McEvers, he actually stepped into the mayor's office, taking over for former mayor Jim Hammond when he stepped down to retire early before his term had ended. And then finally, we have Debbie Loffman. She is a property management business owner. She moved here to Coeur d'Alene to be closer to her grandkids and her kids. So let's start off with John Pulsipher. What I asked, he's the first candidate I met with on the Tea with Amanda Roley, and with some of the things that he talked through, one thing I'll point out, he said he would like to add a 2% tourism tax within the city so that taking that revenue would be brought back into the city's general fund. So that's one of his bold ideas he talked about with me. He is also critical of current city leadership. He met with some city leaders and just didn't feel inspired or felt like they had a strong vision for the future of the city. And that's what inspired him to step forward and say, I have a vision. Let me throw my hat in the ring. So I'm going to show a quick little taste of my interview with him. I asked John about how he'll apply his experience in dentistry and leading a company to the role as mayor. So take a listen. Can you talk me through how will you leverage your experience as a dentist and small business owner in this role as mayor?
Sure, yeah. So dentists probably is the bad word to say, right? When you say dentist, people cringe and they're like, oh, they look at you differently. Like if we go to parties and
not my most
stuff.
Favorite appointment I make
right.
during the year.
It's like, yeah. And I get that. Like I don't love going to the dentist either. But the truth is, like, we have to work with people in very intimate situations that could be very uncomfortable. And we have to manage a team of people, and we have to manage budgets. We have to make sure all of that balances. And our dental practice has grown. It's over multiple locations. We have nearly 100 employees. And so a big part of what I do is leadership. My style of leadership is I like to be the last one to speak. I want to learn first. Like if I want to interview people, like I want to talk to you and figure out how to do it. How do we do those things? If I want to help the city run well, I'm going to sit down with Troy Tymason and say, Troy, where are the weak spots? Where are our strengths? Where are the weaknesses? Where are the opportunities?
We're unmuting. Here we are. John Pulsipher, I did like what he said at the end there. My leadership style is I want to listen first, take it all in. And I think that's an important characteristic in a leader. Listen to what the constituents want or have to say. All right, moving on. Our next candidate, Dan Gookin. Again, longtime city council member, 4 terms as holding office on city council. He told me that he wants to fix communication in the city of Coeur d'Alene. Talked a lot about policy. There needs to be a policy so that city staff have a handbook, procedures on how to execute what council is asking or go to council for confirmation. We dive a lot into that. Again, we're just sipping on the tea. We're just giving a little taster. He's also, if you didn't know this, I thought it was a really fun fact. He is also the author of DOS for Dummies. I don't know if you remember those hundreds of books you might have seen at Borders or Barnes & Noble's XYZ for Dummies. He's an author of quite a few of those, most famously known DOS for Dummies. I thought that was really cool. All right, so I asked Dan Gookin about if voters want new perspectives, speaking to his experience, right? So he's been on council for several years. So if voters want new perspective, new blood, why should they vote for him? And here's what he had to say. If some voters are of the thought that there needs to be new blood in the administration, how would you persuade them that you are the change? Spill the tea. Tell me.
Spill the tea. The new blood. Well, I would say one of the reasons that would work here is that a lot of the old blood, a lot of the people who were running City Hall 20 years ago don't like me. They don't want any changes. They think everything is going fine. And superficially, the city's able to provide the services. But I see problems down the road. And one of the biggest is this lack of communications. And there's another one there's an indecisiveness right now in City Hall, which really frustrates a lot of people. It frustrated them earlier this month with a decision that the mayor made, or an indecision the mayor made. And someone once asked me, they said, what's the difference between you and Woody? Just tell me, what's the bumper sticker? And it's like, well, I can make a decision. And it's tough. If you want to make everyone happy all the time, you're not going to make a decision. And then you make everyone unhappy. But you got to make a decision. Yes, you're going to make half the people unhappy. But at least you've made a decision and they know where you stand. And that's really important.
Yeah, that was some piping hot tea I was not expecting from Dan Gookin. 2 things that stood out to me. He said he kind of describes himself as the change. He wants to be part of the change. Okay, we will see. The second thing he brought up was current interim mayor Woody Evers, critical of, as he described him, of being indecisive. And he said, I would be decisive. He went on to say in that conversation that I would make decisions and I would, lead in that way. I do ask Woody McEvers about this, and you were going to have to watch the full interview to find out what that response is like. But let's move on. There's a lot to unpack here. So Woody McEvers, current interim mayor, he took over for Jim Hammond. He's held office for roughly 25 years on city council and owns a restaurant in Coeur d'Alene. Now, I will say, kind of looking back at my moments of my tea interview with Woody, we weren't really able to nail down, this is just an observation, we weren't able to really nail down specific goals that Woody has that he would want to accomplish or a vision for the city of Coeur d'Alene if he were elected. But what I did take away from that conversation is his leadership is leaning on the community's input for what's important for the city to address. He wants to hear from the community. He won't drive what's important. He's going to listen to the community to decide what is important. So now, what I asked him, we're going to share a little sip of tea from this interview. I asked him about his thoughts on how the city is doing in preparing for the rapid population growth in Coeur d'Alene. Take a listen. So do you think the city's doing enough to address the growing pains, if you will, right now, and also preparing for future growth?
Well, the city can only do so much. Idaho is different from Washington. Here they can change rules and stuff. Idaho is a little more restrictive. Growth is based on two things, basically, in Idaho or in Coeur d'Alene, water and sewer. You can't build without sewer and water.
Right.
So those two industries are the ones that do most of the planning. The streets, you only get so much right away. People own properties. You do the best you can. Right now we're fixing the lights so they coordinate better in each year, and that's a couple $1 million easy, and time during the summer when people are there and you got intersections closed and stuff. So that keeping up on our roads and stuff like that.
We're working with the microphone. We've got it now. So a lot of work to do is what I gathered from Woody McEvers. All right, our final candidate. We are looking at Debbie Loffman. She is a property management business owner. She also had another company that was tenant screening. She sold that company before moving into the property management sector. She's also the only woman running for Coeur d'Alene mayor. I thought that's pretty cool. She plans to use her experience as a businesswoman who runs her own property management company. In her role as mayor, we talked about kind of the similarities between running property and running Coeur d'Alene as one massive property. During her campaign, one thing that stood out to me, she said she's made it a point to have one-on-one conversations with a variety of city leaders. One that she talked through with me was meeting one-on-one with the Coeur d'Alene fire chief, getting his thoughts, hearing pluses and minuses of what's going well in the city and how she can be of help in the mayor's office. I thought that was pretty cool. One thing I asked her was about potentially being the second woman mayor in Coeur d'Alene. I wanted to ask her take on that. So take a listen.
I work well with all different types of people. People that are more conservative than me, people that are more liberal than me, and I like to find common ground.
And you even mentioned in your your property management, you work with vendors and property managers. So you kind of already work with different sectors. Is that something that you're leveraging in your experience to apply to the mayor's office?
Yes, I feel like Coeur d'Alene's a huge property to manage.
You're right. And it keeps getting bigger, too.
And it keeps getting bigger,
yeah.
Which will go into the problems that Coeur d'Alene faces right now.
And I do want to ask, you are the only woman running for the mayor's office. What do you think about that?
I would be the second woman to ever be mayor in Coeur d'Alene. The first one, I think her name was Sandy. She was in 2001. She won.
Sandy Boom. Yeah. So you've done your research there.
Yeah, so
what do you
I would be
make
the
of
same.
that? I mean, are you hoping to inspire other women, or what comes to mind? Just that being up in the ranks.
A woman's perspective, maybe.
Yeah.
We see things a little differently, and like I say, I love Coeur d'Alene. I love people. I like to work with people.
All right, Debbie Loffman, everyone. Those are your 4 candidates running for Coeur d'Alene mayor. And it's just a small portion there of my interviews with all 4 of those candidates. Pretty great moment to be able to spend 45 minutes diving into what is important to these candidates. Now, right now, you can watch all the full interviews for all 4 candidates right now on KREM 2+. Just go to look under the politics tab. And don't forget, that's it for the T, but don't forget to vote on Election Day, November 4th. You can still register and vote same day at the elections office. Just bring your photo ID and proof of where you live. Now, one last note before we close out here. The Kootenai County Elections Office, I don't know if people widely know this, but we've done a few stories on this every year. The Kootenai County Elections Office runs a series of live stream ballot cameras. It's an effort the office has taken to ensure transparency and build trust in the voting system. So on the live stream, you can watch as election staff open absentee ballots and during election night as they count those votes. And those cameras, they're not live yet. So if you go on YouTube, you're going to see an error sign that says live stream is not ready. So I will be waiting and sipping tea, as I am now, waiting for that live stream to go on November 3rd. So that's Monday, November 3rd. You can check in and watch that live stream. And that's when they'll start opening those absentee ballots. Unofficial results, if you're keeping tabs on those election results, those unofficial results will be posted after polls close at 8 p.m. multiple times throughout election night. That's different than Spokane County, where it's one dump of numbers and that's it until the next day. Kootenai County will be doing multiple updates throughout the night. So, hey, if you want to party like an election, folks, you can just hang out and watch those numbers update. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to watch all the tea with Amanda Roley right here on KREM 2+.